Welcome to our show where we're talking about all Gen Zs, their challenges and their experiences. Today, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship. My name is Anu and I'm joined by my students.
Hi, I'm Tanuja.
Hi, I'm Mayura.
Today, we're going to be joined by Lin Chen.
Lin Chen is a co-founder and CEO of LayerCI. She's also the youngest 2021 Forbes 30 Under 30 nominee in Enterprise Technology, a Y Combinator alumni, and currently a part of the Peter Theil Fellowship.
Prior to LayerCI, Lin helped save a Japanese marketplace company from shutting down and co-funded a food science company. In her spare time, she spends her time powerlifting and helping others.
Without further ado, let's get this started. Thank you, Lin Chen, for joining us today.
No problem. I really appreciate the opportunity.
So now we'll first start off with questions about your early ages. So the first question is, before we get to know more about you and your journey through entrepreneurship, can you explain to Gen Zs what entrepreneurship is?
Yeah, there's lots of definitions out there about entrepreneurship, but just so everybody can understand, entrepreneurship is really just the act of starting a business or project. Usually there's a goal in mind that brings value to a group of people, to a group of things, and it's something that you care enough about to go out there and do on your own. And so usually on the journey of entrepreneurship, you might be doing it solo or you might be doing it with other people. So, you know, but being the one who initiates it, being the one who has that big vision is kind of the act of being in entrepreneurship.
Thank you for that concise definition about entrepreneurship. So before you founded Candy Cutlery and LayerCI, you started an art business and where you sold drawings, and this started when you were about 12 years old. What made you realize that there was no age limit to entrepreneurship? And how did you make sales at such a young age?
Thanks for that question. I did start with art at first, and I would have to thank two people here. One is, of course, my parents. They came here to Canada when I was 5, so we immigrated together from China. And to be honest, even though they were very well-educated people, they weren't given the opportunities, partially because of a language gap, but also because there was just not many jobs out there that catered towards them. So they decided to do their own business. And I was lucky to be on the receiving end of being able to help them through all these different businesses over the years. And so that gave me the first exposure to entrepreneurship. Even when I was, 5, 6, the minute we came to Canada, we started making a couple of businesses. And the second group of people I have to thank is really my teachers, because in school, they were always assigning these projects. And one of them was to make a little business. And I really took it a little bit further than they wanted. They wanted me to, come up with the idea, and that was it. But I remember being 12 and thinking, oh man, like this is really cool. I really like to draw. I'm going to go out and go to the library, find some drawing books. And this is a great opportunity to, 1, learn something new, and 2, do money, make money while doing it, right? So, I would take requests and, I would be at recess and wave my hand and say, hey, do you want me to draw you a Naruto? Like, do you want me to draw you your favorite character? And I would go and basically take these art commissions and go draw it at home. And I realized then that, oh, wow, it's really fun starting a business. You are, again, bringing value to someone. You're bringing someone happiness. And in exchange, they'll pay you money because, you've done a really great service or given them a really great product. And so, yeah, that's when I realized, hey, I could do it when I'm younger because I've got that exposure to helping my parents as well as doing it on my own. And that was a really aha moment for me. And I really enjoyed doing it.
Wow, that's a very inspiring story. Thank you. So how did your experiences with your art business help you when you later founded Candy Cutlery and LayerCI, competed in pitch competitions and etc.? What skills were you able to grasp from those experiences?
Yeah, so Definitely entrepreneurship is, or being an entrepreneur is about being able to learn things really quickly. You're basically learning every single day. Every day is a little bit different. And you kind of have to be what's called like a jack of all trades, or I can call it Jill of all trades. Being able to pick up a lot of things, right? You got to learn about money, about how much money you need to start a business with. You need to learn how to make money. You need to learn about sales, marketing, how to manage people, and the particular skill that you need in order to execute on that business. For example, drawing, you have to learn the technique of drawing to provide really great art for people, right? Similarly, in Candy Cutlery, it was a food science business. Being able to understand how food science works and how to make great recipes that people are going to love to consume, especially with the challenge of things like mold making molds to make the shapes of spoons for the candy, and all of that required a bit of skill and technique. And of course, the life hack here, especially when you're younger, is to go out there and find people who knew how to do these things already. So for me, when I was younger, I really loved watching this show called Daniel Cook. And, he would basically go out and learn from other people. Oh, this is how you do karate. This is how you cook. And I basically did the same thing. I went and my co-founder and I found a food scientist from the University of Guelph. He was one of the world-renowned food scientists in the world, right? So he was very famous for being good at food science. And I thought, okay, well, let's get him as our mentor. And so we actually went and met him, asked him to critique our recipes. And then based on that, that was a really great foundation for us to, one, get more connections into the industry, two, get more credibility when pitching, and three, being able to really just understand the business a little bit better so that we had someone we can constantly get feedback from. So I guess the skill with learning how to start a business as well as pitching is being able to know what you need in order to convince people that you know what you're doing. And so, of course, the first thing is learning as much as you can by yourself, with friends, as well as with people who are really deep in the industry already. And then, of course, learning the additional skills every day, just improving on the skills that you could improve on, such as sales, marketing, things like that.
Thank you for sharing those skills and experiences. So my last question is, when you told your parents about becoming an entrepreneur, what did they think? And what advice would you provide to students who want to go into the entrepreneurship path, but their parents aren't so happy with their decision?
Yeah, that's a really important question to ask. So you would assume that since my parents had the experience of being an entrepreneur since coming to Canada, that they would be all on board for this. But that wasn't the case for sure. They wanted me to be a lawyer, a doctor, all the traditional Chinese kid paths that, are stereotypical but true. And the reason why they wanted that, I asked them, like, why did you want me to be a doctor? Why did you want me to be a lawyer? And the reason why is they said, well, we want you to have a better life than we had. Being in entrepreneurship is really hard. I read somewhere recently, someone said, it's like being punched in the face daily, for just for learning and for improving your business. It's a really hard thing for a very long time. So because of that, they didn't want me to go through those hardships that they did because they had no choice. It was for survival, right? And they didn't really see it as fun, right? It's not something fun or your passion or something like that. And so originally I said, okay, well, I'm interested in maybe medicine, but I'm too scared to be a doctor. So maybe I'll be a nurse because I like to help people. And that was originally what I wanted to do since I was in, beginning of high school. So after I was 12, had that experience, I was like, okay, that was a fun experience, but let me go actually find out what my real job is going to be, because no one had told me at the time that, being an entrepreneur, that word didn't even exist to me yet. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go and be a nurse. So I did the same thing of, I went and I found nurses to talk to. I figured out how to get into a midwifery clinic. Like, I asked all about this profession. I went to these job fairs and things like that. And I was like, okay, I'm really into this. I think I can really do this. And then, I kept going out to these experiences, and I met Lucas from Y2 Entrepreneurship Labs, right? So I met them because my friend said, oh, hey, you should come to this pitch competition. It's really great. And, just come out and support me. And I said, oh, all right, I'll go. But I don't know if I'm good at this entrepreneurship thing you're talking about, or hackathons and stuff. It doesn't sound like my thing. I'm going to be a nurse. And so I had already applied to university at the time, and I was going to be a nurse. And I went there with no expectation and ended up loving it. I loved pitching. I loved ideating. I felt like a kid again, just being 12 and learning about all of these things. And so based on that experience, I told my parents, hey, I really like this. I think I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And they said, oh man, like, I don't know if this is for you. You should go down a very stable path. And so I really worked hard to just show them I had a really big plan and that I knew what I was doing. So I read lots and lots of books on entrepreneurship, met a lot of entrepreneurs. And when I was at school, I did not stop showing up to start this candy cutlery business. I was in a lot of newspapers, things like that. And I think some of it helped with signaling to my parents that I was really serious about this. So since, I was 16, 17, I've been doing this for 6 years now, not counting my art business. So it's been a 6-year journey to really, get into it. And when I left school, I dropped out for the Theil Fellowship. And because, Peter Thiel is the founder of PayPal, they were like, okay, maybe she's onto something. She's not starving. She's making money. Someone famous has recognized her. Forbes 30 under 30 recognized her. And so maybe she's going to be okay. She's still going to be able to have a really awesome life, and we don't need to worry about her anymore. And so how can you convince your parents not to worry about you anymore? I think part of it was showing you're really serious, having a plan, keep showing up, keep, doing the right things, showing that you're very committed to something, showing that you're happy doing it. And of course, also taking the burden away from them, paying off my student debt, starting to pay my own bills, all those little things accumulated to me being responsible for my own stuff. So when that happened, I think my parents were like, okay, she's going to be okay. So I think regardless if you go into entrepreneurship or something else, being able to take care of yourself is a key skill. And so showing up will make your parents feel a lot more reassured that you know what to do.
Thank you for those wonderful responses. I will now hand it over to Thanuja.
Okay, so now I guess we're going to transition into Candy Cutlery. And just to give our viewers a quick explanation, it's a food science business that Lynn co-founded, and they basically made edible utensils. So first, I just want to start off with how you started your business, because I think the hardest part about forming a business, or one of the hardest parts, is actually starting and, going through that plan that you had circling in your head and say, I'm actually going to do this. And the reason why it's so hard is because there's so many initial fears and self-doubts that start to kick in. So how are you able to get over those and actually go through with your plan? And what were the steps you took to get started with Candy Cutlery?
That's a great question. So I mentioned this briefly when I was talking about how I convinced my parents to let me be an entrepreneur, or be okay with me being an entrepreneur. And one of the things I did was go to this hackathon called Y2 Entrepreneurship Labs. There are lots of things similar to that in schools and, in clubs, things like that. But when I did that, I was able to meet lots and lots of people. And one of them ended up being my co-founder. So that's where I initiated the idea, where we made a prototype, where we first pitched, and got some mentors, got my first co-founder. I found my second co-founder at a conference for entrepreneurship, because like-minded people gather together. And then we ended up being 3 co-founders with this business, and we kept going to pitch competitions together. And that's how we collected our initial funds to fund this business. I believe it was about $18,000 we were able to get just through going to pitch competitions. And so, of course, with anything that you start, whether it's, a class project or a startup or entrepreneurship initiative, is to make a plan. And this plan doesn't have to be super extensive. I made a really expensive one, and I got to tell you, making a giant business plan was a total waste of time. Like a 20 page business plan was just a lot of fluff and not a lot of content. And I didn't know that at the time, but that was really bad advice I got to make such a giant business plan. But being able to write down your thoughts and being able to communicate your ideas in two ways is really important. There's what's called the lean startup canvas. It's basically all your ideas about the business, how you're going to make money, how much money you're going to need, how you're going to make customers, how you're going to, what value are you providing to the world. All of that is summarized in one page, and that's what we did often. And that was one of the tools that we used. The second one is anytime you had an idea, you would just like write 1 or 2 pages all about it, like try to put in as much detail as possible. That's actually a Jeff Bezos initiative. Whenever they pitch a new idea at Amazon, they just write everything down and everybody at the table reads this new project idea and then kind of brainstorms from that. So those are the sort of 2 tools we use to plan. And of course, with any plan, things change, right? Your plans change, your ideas change, people change. So it's important to use the first tool, the Lean Startup Canvas, and continue to iterate on that. So I remember being a mentee at the DMZ at Ryerson, where I followed an entrepreneur, Alon, who was in the food business, and I would just kind of watch him work. And I noticed that a lot of the entrepreneurs there, they had these sticky notes on their business model canvas, their Lean Startup Canvas, and they would keep switching up the sticky notes based on changes in the business. And so I thought that was really interesting. I just copied them after too. And having that experience was really great because you got to know your plans aren't set in stone. Your vision is set in stone, but your plans are not set in stone. So being able to plan out your ideas, being able to convince people to join your idea is really important. So those are kind of the things I learned about how we got started.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about like this great plan you had. How did you go about implementing it after? Because I know Candy Cutlery has worked with a lot of companies like Cohorta Dairy, Marble Slab, and then you also mentioned you worked with a world-renowned food scientist, right? And as a group of high school students, how are you able to gain the trust to reach out to these professionals and have them work with you?
For sure. That's a really good question. And probably one of the most key skills is being able to convince someone to join you on your mission, whether they're a mentor or your co-founder or a customer, right? And the first line is, of course, one, make a plan, right? What's your plan to do this? Second thing to do is, reach out to some people and really just say, hey, I've done my research and I'd like to learn how to do sales. I'd like to learn how to write a good email. I'd like to learn how to get a mentor, right? And having that experience was really helpful because then I could say, okay, well, now I understand how to do that. So if I ever need someone to bounce ideas off of, I have a mentor or I have someone I could trust to talk to me about that. So I thought that was pretty important to learn, that you can rely on other people, the internet as well, and just not be scared because there's a lot of people around you who are experts. And then I guess the third thing I did was go out there and do it, right? It's definitely what I call a numbers game, being able to sell to people, to talk to customers. One of how I learned that, I think, was partially to see my parents do their business, that they had customers who come in and not everyone would buy something, right? So having that experience was really important. Oh, maybe out of 10 people, 1 person would buy something, and you have to convince them that it's something that is valuable. And of course, another experience I had that's kind of random is I actually helped canvassing for a while for this political figure. And so I would go with her and she would convince door to door, hey, I am your candidate. And not everyone agreed with her. And so being able to argue in a polite way, in a sense, or like convince someone in a polite way was really important. We call that objection handling. And so even like writing down thoughts of what would they say to me, and how can I convince them otherwise? So, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, you guys are too young. How far along is your business? Things like that, right? So being able to have that ready was really important. And then as you talk to more people, customers, advisors, things like that, you start to build a more clear idea of how this business is going to go, right? Especially with talking to customers, I would say when you're younger, you should leverage as much as you can, like your youthfulness and excitement for the business. The second is, being able to get some press, getting some press to cover why you're doing this. Oh, you won an award. Go tell the news reporter about it. They're always looking for great stories about young people doing something cool for the world. In particular, the trend that we were on was this plastic movement, getting rid of plastic, right? And so being able to leverage that to say, hey, this is a huge environmental issue that these kids are solving, right? It is really important, and people really love that story. I guess also just kind of building trust by just showing up again. Like I remember I would bring boxes and boxes of Candy Cutlery products and going door to door downtown Toronto. And a lot of these ice cream shops, they were mom and pop stores that were entrepreneurs themselves. And so they had a lot of empathy for entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs too. So I would do a lot of research on particular companies and like what particular flavors went with what. And I would go out there, I would bring my big box and I'd say, hey, my name is Lynn and this is my business. I was hoping I could get like a moment of your time and we could talk about this. And I would keep showing up until they became my customer. And so that's kind of what I did. I just showed up. I learned how to make phone calls too. It was really scary, but you can write down a script and say, hey, I'm Lynn and I'm the co-founder of Candy Cutlery. May I please speak to your manager or whoever the owner is, right? Hey, I've got some samples I'd like to send you. Can I get your mail for this? Right? Like all these things you learn, and it's, to me, honestly, always scary, even though I've done it 100 times. But having that experience was so key because this is an important skill I learned for my new company, LayerCI.
Wow. Okay. So as you just mentioned, building a business is not easy, right? It's a lot of initiative, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of step ups and like failures and just getting yourself up. So you were a high school student while you were running Candy Cutlery. And my question is, how are you able to manage running a startup while also, focusing on school and relationships and extracurriculars?
That definitely is a great question. And the honest answer is I did not handle everything well. You have to drop a couple eggs to balance what's most important to you. And that's really when you start developing your values of what you want to do with your life, because it's impossible to be perfect. I know maybe there's a couple people who can do all of it, but for me, I knew that if I was going to juggle everything in my life, that I'm going to just do everything, half-heartedly, right? And I didn't want to do that. So your time is limited. You got to choose. The first thing I dropped was extracurriculars. One thing that I love to do was going to these entrepreneurship clubs and meeting some people in that space. And then I really wanted to meet other founders like me. The issue is the founders were missing. Why? Because they were too busy. So, that's kind of something I realized. People are really busy when they're doing a business. So I dropped that first. In terms of, hanging out with friends and stuff, like, to be honest, like, two things changed for me. One is I stopped hanging out with a lot of my friends. I stopped texting people all day because I just didn't have time for it. And honestly, a lot of my friends were gone, right? That's a reality of starting a business sometimes, if they didn't realize or understand why you're doing these things, some people might feel hurt and they're going to not be in your life anymore. And I realized that changed. So I lost some friends in high school and in university. But the second thing is I got a lot of new friends who valued the same things. So a lot of them were founders or, were studying a lot or something like that, where they're busy a lot. But every time we came together to hang out or to do something, we were always there for each other. And, even if we didn't see each other every single day, every single week, every single month, we could pick it back up like that. So realizing, what kind of friendships you wanted is really important, because some people really value, having friends to hang out with all the time. And some people really just value just the being able to pick it back up whenever you can. And so the second was what I could manage with my schedule. In terms of grades, I gotta say, like I slacked a lot, and I ended up just doing the bare minimum to get by. But I was able to still get into university and go through university. So that's kind of the choices I made. Not all of them were great, but you just can't do it all.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being authentic, because I guess while you said, yeah, you do lose some friends, you gain a lot of friends that have the same values as you and kind of share the same experiences. So that's really cool. So yeah, that's it about Candy Cutlery. And I guess I'll pass it on to Anu.
Well, Lynn, clearly entrepreneurship was just written out for you, Candy Cutlery, and I followed that. It was phenomenal that you started it at such a young age. Now tell me your current venture, LayerCI. Just tell me, what is LayerCI all about? Like as if I was a 5-year-old child. Explain to me, what is it all about?
Yeah, for sure. So LayerCI is a technology company, and this particular technology product, LayerCI, helps people who build software, share their code, collaborate with others, such as designers and other people who help with this product. So it's really a platform that helps these developers share their code, make their code better, make coding faster. So that's kind of the market we serve, software developers.
Wow. It's the technology field. It's usually, at least if you look out there, the startup founders, they're older, usually males. So how do you find yourself managing as a younger woman in this particular field?
Yeah. I would say the first thing is to surround yourself with people who support you and lift you up. So my co-founder, especially, he fits that profile. That he is really awesome. He always encourages me to be go out there and do the best. And he's always been really supportive of me as a woman and as a friend. So having people around you, advisors, mentors, again, co-founders that respect you is really important. And that helps with my confidence. Being able to continue to improve on myself and learn more has really helped with that confidence as well. Because if you don't know something, go figure it out right away. And the next time someone asks you, you look like a real expert. So if you're an expert in the room, there's no reason why someone should doubt you. So I think just being able to challenge ideas, being able to be an expert on things is really important. And that's something I strive to do every day.
So age, gender doesn't matter, as long as you're really focused on what you know what you want to do. Go out there and get out and do it.
Absolutely.
Awesome, Lynn. So to university students who are out there, or even those who've just graduated and probably are co-founding their own company and wanting investors or wanting some kind of money to further their business, do you suggest bootstrapping at first prior to going out there and asking for investments?
Yeah, for sure. We started LayerCI with $2,000, so $1,000 from each of the co-founders. And I started LayerCI with, I'm gonna say, like $50 borrowed from my parents, right? So in both cases, like, you don't really need a lot of money to make a prototype, to get your first customer, even for the most part. Obviously, I'm speaking in general terms. There are some businesses like SpaceX that require a lot more money, but you know, for your traditional businesses, service businesses, software even, the cost is very low now to make a prototype. So I would highly recommend make a plan, test your idea, and do it, I would say, within a very short amount of time, 3 months to 6 months, to see if it works. And so that's essentially what we did. We went out, talked to thousands of people, you know, used a little bit of money to make a prototype before we went and asked for investment, because having that much money actually doesn't change really your trajectory unless you have a plan for it. And taking someone's money is a big responsibility, for whether it's from the bank or from individual investors or from an institution like an investment firm. It's a lot of responsibility. So be able to manage that and knowing, okay, how much money do I need really? And what am I going to do with the money are basic things you need to know before you even go out there and try to raise. I think I see a lot of young people who really go out there and start spending it like crazy, right? And you know, it's best to think about it, take a moment to make a plan before you go out there and take money from investors.
And am I correct? As in, you did raise money for LayerCI, correct?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so what is that process like? If you were to explain it to someone, are there specific VCs that you say, oh, keep a lookout of these particular VCs, and this is how you present to them? Do you have a particular format that you suggest?
Yeah. So we pitched remotely over Zoom, just like this. So it's, I would say, in this climate right now where there's COVID and you know you really can't see people in person, it's basically like a one-on-one pitch competition, right? So you may be pitching to angel investors, which are people who have a little bit of money and are able to basically take their own money and invest it in your company. There are people who are investors or institutional investors. So they're usually from a bigger company such as a bank or a private equity firm or a venture capital firm. And their job is to manage other people's money to make more money for that business and for those investors. Yeah, it's basically like pitch competitions. The key thing though is for most pitch competitions, if you get the money, there are really no strings attached, right? You can spend it usually however you'd like because it's just a winning. But with investors, you're giving away ownership of your business. So you're selling a piece of your business to investors in exchange for money to further the business. So this is where the concept of ownership really matters, understanding how to manage ownership too, in addition to managing investor money. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. It's very much like a pitch competition.
Right. And are there particular VCs that you'd recommend, or that any pitch competitions that you would recommend to university students or someone who's just coming out right now and starting their own business?
Yeah, usually, with Canada in particular, there are lots of great pitch competitions, such as the Queen's Entrepreneurs Competition at Queen's University, where I'm from. But I would recommend going to local pitch competitions, even going to hackathons, where you have a really good chance of meeting co-founders and testing out ideas based on themes, right? So just going to places where you may be able to get a bit of money or being able to basically validate your business as well. It is practice for investment. In terms of investors, there's also like student investors. So there's a lot of institutions that, such as like Front Row Ventures, where they encourage folks who are they only invest in businesses run by students. So there's a lot of really great opportunities out there like that. And I'm sure if you look it up for your particular area, you'll be able to find opportunities. And that's essentially what I did for the most part.
And when did you decide that, okay, we need investors at this point as a team?
Yeah. So I would say it's when we got our first couple customers. that was the concept of validating in the first, 3-6 months of the business. We've already established 2 co-founders who, basically had a particular expertise that was complementary. And, the thing with startup and the thing with technology is that you got to keep growing at a very steady upwards trajectory pace. We call it the hockey stick because it looks like a hockey stick going up. So, being able to do that, you need more teammates, you need money to advertise your business, you need money to make your software better. With software, you really can't be slow in this market because it changes just like that, right? So knowing that and seeing a lot of attraction in the beginning, we realized, oh, it's time to start looking at investors. Especially in the software business for us, when we sell to other software developers, right? Being able to sell to folks, it requires a lot of trust building as well. So getting press, having a product that people can trust and rely on is really important. And so you can't run out of money in that case. $2,000 just doesn't cut it anymore, right? So you need to hire people to maintain the business, to grow the business. And it's also a responsibility not only to your investors, but to your customers who trusted you in the beginning. And so being able to balance those two requires a bit of funding.
Oh, awesome. Well, I mean, how did you actually come up? So with LayerCI, was there a major problem that you saw? Because Candy Cutlery was a food science business. You were making candy, cutlery with candy. So how did you come up with the idea for LayerCI? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so LayerCI actually was a concept that came out of my co-founder's previous business. So he worked as the CTO of a multi-million-dollar startup. And he was really young too. He's only a year older than me. And he basically saw from a software developer lens that there was a lot of inefficiencies. The developer experience could be so much better because a lot of the tooling that was provided wasn't really doing what it was supposed to do to the best of its abilities. So that meant the quality of life of a software developer was not as good as it could have been. So things were slower, they were missing deadlines, customers may be angry about something. And so, having the tools to build is really essential. So based on that, based on his own pain, based on his team's pain, he decided to, basically quit his job and go and, start the prototype. So he and I got together. He was thinking about, how am I going to architecture this product? And I thought, how are we going to sell this product? And so that partnership became really fruitful because we both were doing our best to build the start of the business, which is the hardest part. And so we started working together, and we actually met through LinkedIn. We went for coffee, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's a phenomenal story. I mean, LinkedIn has brought a lot of connections. In fact, me and you, we got connected through Lucas, but we kept in touch through LinkedIn. So that's
right.
LinkedIn definitely does. So, I mean, Lynn, you've done so much already in this short period of your life. You've done so much. And one of the things that you've achieved was the Forbes 30 under 30. You're nominated for that, the Peter Theil Foundation, the CanSprit Fellowship. Now, can you share with us or the whole community on how you were able to accomplish these things?
Yeah. I mean, I really am honored to receive these things at a young age. And definitely it feels nice to be validated, of course. But I think the experiences and the opportunity it's brought has been really fruitful to being just a better person and to continue learning. And I guess overall, how I got these things was really, I've been doing a lot, right? I've been doing a lot for Candy Cutlery. I've been doing a lot for LayerCI, and just the only way you'll get these investments, all these awards, is if you keep showing up, if you keep doing the things, right? And a lot of the day-to-day is not glamorous at all. I remember having to haul boxes and boxes of candy for hours to put into storage, and going at 12 a.m. in the morning to deliver packages by hand because it was cheaper than shipping it. That was the Candy Cutlery experience. And so that ultimately got me CANSBridge Fellowship, which is, I guess, a internship program where they pay you to travel to a country in Asia that challenges you. So I'm Chinese, I speak Mandarin, so I wasn't allowed to go to China, go to Taiwan, any of those places. But I was able to go to Japan without learning any Japanese. I had to figure out, how do I get a job there? How do I support myself there? And what kind of adventure would I like to go on? And what would I like to learn? So that experience was really fruitful. And I didn't get it the first time. I basically got flat out rejected when I was in first year university. So what happened was I went to a pitch competition for the Queen's Entrepreneurs Competition. It was my very first pitch competition into university. A venture capitalist called William Yu was there. He's the founder of the CANSBridge Fellowship. I basically went there, and it was supposed to be a 30-second pitch or something like that, or a 1-minute pitch. And I totally blew it. I was just completely frozen on stage. I said 1 or 2 words came out of my mouth, but it was complete gibberish. And I could just see the founder of the CANSBridge Fellowship just shaking his head like, oh man, this was terrible. And what I did instead of running away in shame was I came back, and after the competition, which I lost, of course, I went up to the co-founder of CANSBridge and I said, hey, William, what did you think of my pitch? I knew it was bad, but how can I improve? And what are your thoughts? And he said, that was by far the worst pitch I've ever seen in my life. And I said, all right. He's like, you got to practice. You got to practice more. You got to go do that 100 times. I'm like, oh, all right. He's like, send me a recording if you want. Here's my email. You got to go and pitch it over and over again and make progress on your business. I'm like, all right, I understand. Now I hear you've got this CANSBridge Fellowship thing. Do you think I would be a good candidate for it? He's like, absolutely not. So obviously, that was struck to the chest. It was hard to hear feedback like that, so brutally honest. But I was really excited that I got the opportunity to basically improve on myself. He was coming a year later to see the competition again. And I decided in that moment, I was going to stick a sticky note on my wall and practice this 100 times. So anytime I could pitch about Candy Cutlery, I would, to a customer, to a friend, to a pitch competition. And I did it over 100 times over the course of a year. So the following year, I went and did it, and I won a cool $100 and William's respect. So he actually invited me to join the CANSBridge Fellowship that summer. And I said, no, thanks. I'm not going to do it. And he said, why not? And I said, I need to go out there and do more with my business. And made some progress. And I said, I'm not doing this summer internship. I got to go focus on my business. So that's exactly what I did. And then the following year, I decided to go on the CANSBridge Fellowship to go to Tokyo. So, these things happen because you keep showing up, you keep showing progress. And that particular thing was a 3-year journey to get the CANSBridge Fellowship. And that was really difficult to get, but I learned a lot through that. One, of course, make progress on whatever project you're doing. Second, ask for feedback whenever you can, right? Improve on yourself, right? Don't be afraid to hear brutal honesty. The third thing is, actually, I spoke to a lot of people from the CANSBridge Fellowship before I went on to see if it was the right decision for me. So I met a lot of really great friends there who shared my values. Basically, before I even applied, I already met some great friends, and I realized, oh, wow, like I would like to learn more, and I'd like to meet more people like this. So I just kept showing up, and that's how I got that particular thing. So hopefully that's a good experience on that, and particularly for the Theil Fellowship and Forbes 30 Under 30, same thing, just keep showing up, show that you made progress. These are all from, starting LayerCI and building LayerCI, and people will notice that you're doing great things, and you'll be able to have the same opportunity to do that as well.
Awesome. I mean, the fact that you talk about resilience and not to give up, just keep showing up so that these fellowships all see you. That is great advice to not just the next generation, but to any generation. So Lynn, if you can just share one advice for a university or student who just came out of university and is like, okay, I am going to apply for a job or I'm going to start my own business. But then they are worried about the risks of running their own business. Maybe they don't have cash at this point. Do you think that they should go the corporate route and say, okay, let me start making money and then maybe save it up for a business? What sort of advice would you give when they have that entrepreneurial itch, but they're scared of their finances? They don't have the finances.
Yeah, for sure. I think what you put into your business is what you get, right? So my risks I took were to get even the Teal Fellowship and also to you get all these things. Was I had to drop out of university. I had to, go full time. And that's a big risk to take. But you don't see it as a risk if you've taken care of everything else. So for me, my bare minimum for starting a business, 2 years of personal runway. You need 2 years, basically your month to month rent, how much do you need to make to be able to afford a place to live, afford food, have basic necessities, all of those things, and a little bit more. And so you can focus on the business. So I think 2 years of saving that up is really important. And that's for anybody who is starting a business, not just students. So if you have a kid, if you have, dependents that you have to take care of, if you have a cat, you need to be able to take care of those people and things before you start a business, because it is a big risk, right? So having that plan, again, is really important, and being able to take care of yourself is really important. Do you have any debt? Do you have a mortgage, right, for housing? Do you have student debt? Please pay it off now, right? Like, please pay all those things and get those things sorted before you start a business. And that's exactly what I did, paying off the student debt, all of that in advance. And any sort of jobs I took in university, all went to, paying off that student debt, because I knew that was the first thing I needed to figure out. And then, yeah, I would say having that 2 years is really important, because businesses don't happen overnight, right? Some of it happens through small projects here and there while you're working. Some of it happens all at once, but even then, having investment and stuff doesn't mean you're going to spend all that money on yourself, right? So being able to balance all of that requires a bit of planning, a bit of savings. And yeah, I would never go broke starting a company. That's a terrible idea. Please don't do it. Don't come out and say, oh, I didn't get a job. I didn't get a job, so I'm just going to go start a company. Please think about it. Please have 2 years of runway. And so if you're coming out of university, if you're just graduating, yeah, the job market is tough. But if I were to say anything, I would say find a job that is interesting. And if you want to do a startup and you don't have the money for it right now, you're really broke, go find a job that you can learn from, right? Learn on someone else's dollar. I think that's a great idea. Learn from a startup founder. Learn about how to do sales. If I were to go back again, and if I didn't have the money to start a company, then I would basically go into tech sales, because I think tech sales is really a really key skill. And I will learn everything I need to learn about that and marketing, and then go start my business. Like that's exactly how I would do that. For other people, it might be, okay, you're really interested in the medical business, or a particular niche, learning how to program and things like that, right? So go and do it. Go and do it and earn money while doing it. Learn something new, and then apply that to a future business. Save up for that business and save up for yourself. So I would say, that's kind of the way I would frame it. Please never go broke when starting a business. That's just a bad idea. Make sure you future-proof yourself and your business and whoever you have to take care of.
So it's please never go broke, but have the resilience to keep going as long as you have that 2-year runway, for sure. So yes. Thank you so much, Lynn. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, what is the best way to reach out to you? Could you share?
Sure. Yeah, I've got my work email. It's lyn@layerci.com. That's LAYERCI.com. And I've also got LinkedIn, so you can find me at Lynn Chen, so LYNCHEN. And yeah, I'm always happy to chat about life, chat about being a founder and things like that, because I know these are all really hard decisions to make, and it's always nice to have someone to talk to about this.
And yes, and I know that you post a lot of valuable information on LinkedIn and you share a lot in your knowledge in regards to entrepreneurship. So thank you so much for being so authentic about your journey with us, Lynn. And we hope to reconnect and share more about your journey as you keep building on LayerCI and many more. I know you're going to do much more in life for sure. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.